What to watch? What to watch? That is the eternal conundrum for us in the film industry. If we watch a bad movie, we can't really watch the movie. We only end up watching what makes the movie bad. But I do believe that there are a lot of incredible movies, incredible stories out there that we, as filmmakers, don't just need to watch. Instead, I think it's actually incredibly valuable to watch movies that explore particular human flaws and think about those movies with that lens on when you're watching it. Now, I am absolutely going to say, if there are any movies on my list today that you have not watched, go ahead and watch those movies as the audience. Enjoy the movie. Don't let this analysis get in the way of that first, because all of these films, in my opinion, are well worth enjoying first. And I think that is a real sign of respect to any filmmaker, to take the time to enjoy their film for what it was meant for first. And then us as filmmakers have the chance to learn from those who have gone ahead of us, from those who have created styles and told stories which are really inspiring in so many ways. So today's episode is really looking at movies that have looked at deep human flaws in incredible, unique, and successful ways. Movie number one, I believe Citizen Kane is a brilliant movie. Now, that's not just because it has been widely voted as the best movie of all time many years in a row by many different establishments who've spoken to filmmakers.
As Charles Foster Kane, who owns 82,364 shares of public transit preferred, you see, I do have a general idea of my holdings. I sympathize with you. Charles Foster Kane is a scoundrel. His paper should be run out of town. A committee should be formed to boycott him.
But there's a very good reason why Citizen Kane is widely regarded as such a great film. Now, it's not necessarily the most technically competent film, it's not necessarily the most adventurous story structure, but what it does do brilliantly. And this film, I believe, explores ego in a way that I don't believe any other film has been able to achieve in the same way, by looking at a man's life after he has died, to almost see his achievements and his ego and how that has affected all of his decisions in his life and the people around him. It didn't just settle by watching a man revel in his own ego and then seeing all the chips fall down around him. Instead, it's looking at the ripples, the aftermath of this man's behavior, his actions, his decisions. And that is actually the key to film, is not necessarily an action, but it is the reaction after that makes us understand how powerful or inconsequential each action is. It's like every time we watch an argument between two characters, when one of them hits on a nerve, the other one will react. They may not react by showing them that they have hit the nerve, but we will understand it through some type of action just after or in the preceding scene to that act. And that will give us an idea, it will create the connection that those things mean something to those characters, and we react to things that mean something to us. So I believe you should absolutely analyze Citizen Kane and the way it explores ego. Next is The Shawshank Redemption. Now,
35,000.
All of it.
All of it?
Every penny.
You better start making sense.
If you want to keep all that money, give it to your wife. The IRS allows a one-time only gift to your spouse for up to $60,000.
Now, I believe most of you probably have looked at this film more than once, and I hope you have. And if you haven't, this is the perfect opportunity to do so. There have been many essays on how The Shawshank Redemption is, in essence, probably one of the most complete prison movies of all time. It doesn't just have an incredible drama, twists and turns galore, but it also has a fantastic escape that is literally decades in the making. That sense of persistence and patience is an incredible virtue to the film and the characters within it. But what I believe Shawshank's Redemption does brilliantly is it explores the concept of greed in a way that many other films don't dive down into the depths of in the way that Shawshank does. In the way that Shawshank's Redemption explores greed. Now, when I say that it explores greed, it doesn't necessarily use the lead character as the greedy one in the film. Instead, he falls victim to the greed of the prison officers around him, instead of him having that character flaw, which is unlike many other films. The prison officers are willing to go to such lengths to ensure their greed is satisfied that it actually endangers the life of not just the protagonist in the film, but his associates and friends throughout the film. And ultimately, his very freedom. Number 3! One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
How about it, you creeps, you lunatics, mental defectives?
Okay. It's just such a beautiful film. It really is. It spawned a recent TV series on Netflix called Ratchet, which is also an absolute pleasure to watch. But I do think if you are interested in watching Ratchet, you should absolutely go back to the original film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in the concept of how we see sanity and insanity in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The filmmaker very overtly asks this question and looks at the way we as a culture perceive these people and how they then perceive themselves. The lead character, however, does something a little more deep and interesting than that. And I believe his battle between the institution, Nurse Ratched, and himself really actually explores the ideas of repression. Now, I don't necessarily mean systemic repression coming from government and law and institutions, but actually the repression of self. The character that we follow in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest actually embodies everything that is the opposite to repression. He has no verbal or action filter. He seems to just do what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants to. He's almost what they would term a system crasher, unable to follow a system and rules, always wanting to completely go against the system, no matter if it's right or wrong in his opinion. It's almost like a system is there for him to just smash. A brilliant film that just came out recently in 2019 called System Crashers also is another film which I think brilliantly explores this, and I thoroughly recommend you watch that too. An absolute classic at number 4 is In the Mood for Love. Director Wong Kar-wai absolutely told one of the most nuanced love stories where the characters never end up together. In one of the most emotionally gutting films I have ever seen, I believe Wong Kar-wai explores the idea of desire, and not just the desire between the two characters in the film, but also our own desire to see two people who obviously want each other. Our desire to see them finally end up together. It's almost as if it puts the middle finger up to classic Hollywood cinema, where in the end the two protagonists end up in love and together, and walking off into the sunset. Whereas instead, he looks at that trope, that cliche, and ensures that he does the exact opposite. At every turn, he subverts our expectations. If you want to find out more about subverting expectations, check out my episode on looking at genre and subverting cliches throughout. And last but not least on this small, but I think powerful list, is the film Whiplash. That's one hell of a roller coaster of a film. It's deep, it's intimate, it's just, God, it's heart-poundingly good. I believe that it explores the concept of perfectionism and the damage it can do to those around them in a way that I don't think I've ever seen a film do before. So I thoroughly recommend that you check out Whiplash after you've watched it to enjoy just how brilliant the music is, the cinematography, the storytelling, the structure, all of those things. But I do think it's worth analysing the film and how it dealt with the concept of perfectionism. From the story to the structure, the way it is shot, utterly brilliant. One of the most universal aspects of being a human is being flawed, being incomplete, and our journey through life is filled with moments we learn ourselves, learn about those around us, fill in our gaps and become better human beings. And that is actually at the crux of storytelling. Stories are there to help us understand how to be a better person, a better human being. If you have any thoughts and ideas on these films, I would love to have a chat with you guys in the comments below. Check out the links below to up your game on your next film.